And welcome back. Most chiropractors are sitting on the most powerful marketing tool in existence and have no idea how to use it correctly. I'm talking about before and after patient stories. And after working with hundreds of independent chiropractors, I can tell you that the practices that master storytelling generate far more new patients than practices relying on credentials or philosophy and clinical explanations alone. But here's the problem. Most doctors either don't collect these stories at all or they tell them so poorly that potential patients scroll right past without feeling anything, no emotion. I'm Dr. Chris Tomshack, and today I'm going to show you exactly how to weaponize patient transformation stories in your marketing. And why the way you're probably sharing success stories right now is actually hurting your conversion rates. And the 3 storytelling frameworks that you can use because they turn casual browsers into booked appointments that show. So what I'm about to reveal in the first strategy alone has helped practices double their consultation requests within 30 days just by changing how they present patient outcomes. So let me tell you what's really happening when potential patients look at your marketing. They're not looking for proof that chiropractic works in general, far from it. They already believe it works for someone. They're looking for proof that it works for people exactly like them with problems exactly like theirs. This is the massive marketing gap most chiropractic totally misses, whether it's online, print, or any other media. You post a testimonial that says, hey, Dr. Smith changed my life. I highly recommend him. That's nice. It means nothing. Why? Because there's no transformation journey, no specific problem, no relatable struggle that the patient underwent. Just a generic endorsement that could apply to literally any service provider in any industry on any day. So picture this scenario that plays out thousands of times daily, probably more. Someone with chronic low back pain is scrolling social media. They see your post with a smiling patient and a caption about how great your practice is. They keep scrolling. Why? Because nothing in that post made them think, you know what, that's me. That's my problem. That's my life. That could be my result. This is where what I call the mere moment framework comes in. And it's the first strategy that separates marketing that generates leads from marketing that generates likes, but no new business. In my experience analyzing hundreds of high converting patient stories across multiple practices all over this country, the ones that actually drive appointment bookings all follow the same psychological pattern. It's replicable. They create what I call a mirror moment where the potential patient sees themselves so clearly in the before story that they can't help but imagine themselves in the after story. So the transformation comes or becomes their transformation in their mind before they even call you. It's already applied. So here's how you apply the same approach starting with your very next patient success story. And I'm sure you've got a lot of them. First, lead with the specific painful situation, not the happy ending. Instead of Sarah is now pain-free thanks to our care, start with Sarah couldn't pick up her 3-year-old daughter without shooting pain down her leg and in her back. She'd been suffering for 8 months and tried everything, even epidurals. See the difference? That second version creates an immediate emotional connection with every single parent reading it who knows exactly what it feels like to be unable to hold their child or grandchild. And then second, include the failed attempts and the emotional toll that it takes. This is critical. She'd tried physical therapy, pain medication, epidurals, even considered surgery. She was exhausted, frustrated, and losing hope. This validates the reader's own failed attempts and makes your eventual solution even more powerful and the obvious choice. And then third, make the transformation concrete and very, very specific. Not she got better, but within 2 weeks she could bend down without pain, and by week 6 she was carrying her daughter or granddaughter around the park for the first time in almost a year. Specific details make stories really believable and relatable to the normal person. But here's what most chiropractors completely miss about patient storytelling, and it's costing them the majority of their potential conversions. So the second strategy is about using before and after stories to preemptively address the silent objection, stopping potential patients from booking. So here's what I consistently see when I audit chiropractic marketing. Practices share success stories that show the clinical outcome, but completely ignore the psychological barriers that prevent people from taking action in the first place. So the three biggest unspoken objections are always the same. Will this actually work for me? How long is it going to take? And can I afford it? Now, most patient stories answer maybe one of these if you're lucky. High converting stories strategically address all three, and they do it every single time. So here's the framework that turns stories into objection killers. First, choose stories that represent your ideal patient's biggest fears and showcase how you address them. If cost is a primary barrier in your market, because they're different market to market, make sure your stories mention how patients were worried about affordability and discovered payment options they didn't even know existed, or perhaps even discount care. And if time commitment is the concern, feature stories about really busy professionals who thought they couldn't fit the treatment into their impossibly busy life. And second, include specific timeframes in every story. Vague promises like results vary, that destroys trust very quickly. Concrete statements like John saw significant improvement in 3 weeks and was back to his normal activities in 2 months. Perhaps they set realistic expectations and build confidence, especially for those tricky patients. Third, and this is the piece that separates amateur storytelling from professional conversion content, crafted by true copywriters, weave in the emotional transformation alongside the physical one. Don't just say someone's back pain went away, disappeared into the ether. Say, for the first time in 5 weeks, Mark could play with his kids without being afraid he'd throw his back out yet again. The constant anxiety about his next flare-up was finally gone. But there's also a third element to effective before and after storytelling that most chiropractors never even consider. And it's the difference between stories that get read and stories that get shared, multiplying your reach exponentially instead of just scrolled through. This is about strategic story placement and format optimization that turns patient testimonials into viral marketing assets. Here's the brutal truth about patient stories. You probably have dozens of amazing transformation stories sitting in your files or your memory that nobody except you knows about. Or worse, you shared them once on Facebook 2 years ago or Instagram, and they disappeared into the void. Now, the practices that I work with that dominate their local markets, they aren't just collecting better stories. They're systematically deploying those stories across every marketing channel in formats that are optimized for each individual platform because they're different. So here's your action plan for turning one patient story into a month's worth of high converting marketing content. First, create what I call the master story document. Interview your best patient outcomes and document the full transformation journey. Their initial problem, what they tried before, why they chose you, what treatment looked like, specific results with time frames, and how their life is different now. Get all of this in writing or in video. This becomes your source material, becomes content. Then second, adapt that master story into multiple formats. A 60-second video testimonial for social media, a written case study for your website, a graphic quote card highlighting the most powerful moment. Maybe it's an email story for your newsletter, a Google review request that prompts them to share specific details. One story, 5 different marketing assets come from it. And then third, schedule strategic deployment. Don't dump all your stories at once. Release one transformation story per week across your platforms. This creates really consistent proof of your results and keeps your content calendar full without constant scrambling. Here's where most practices drop the ball completely, and it's costing them the highest value conversions. They share these stories but never connect them to the specific solution that makes the transformation possible for everyone. So picture someone reading your patient success story. They're feeling hopeful for the first time in a long time. They're imagining themselves finally getting similar results and then stopping because they think, but I can't afford regular chiropractic care. I've heard it's expensive. That moment of hope dies evaporates because you didn't address the affordability bridge. And the practices crushing it with before and after storytelling always include one critical element in their stories. They mention how they made care accessible and affordable for this patient. That signals to everyone reading their financial barriers aren't as insurmountable as they currently fear. Now, if you're sitting there thinking this is, makes sense, right? Makes perfect sense, but you're wondering how to actually address affordability in your stories without sounding like you're running a discount clinic, well, here's the solution. Head over to apexlongevity.com right now and discover the compliant cash discount program that lets you legitimately reduce patient costs, fees in all states without compromising your professional positioning. That's critical. When you can authentically say in your patient stories, we work together to find payment options that fit their budget and actually deliver on that promise, you remove absolutely the biggest barrier between your marketing and booked appointments and then ultimately shows. So if you're ready to stop collecting patient testimonials that sound nice, make you feel good, but don't generate calls, and instead start crafting transformation stories that turn browsers into patients, apexlongevity.com gives you the financial tools that complete the story. The practices dominating their markets aren't just telling better stories. They're making those stories accessible to everyone who needs them. Hope you found some tremendous value. If so, leave me a nice review. I'd appreciate it. Have a beautiful day.